Hello, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to one more episode of the Uncluttered View with Vijay Sambamurthi, which, as you all may know, is our show where we talk to leading eminent personalities from industry and from various fields of industry on the subjects relating to, business, law, economics, and so on in relation to the Indian market. And today, we have as our guest somebody who needs no introduction, but yet it gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome Mr. Ash Lilani, founder and managing partner of Saama Capital, to this episode. Now, Ash and Saama are both, not just well-known names, but they are, legendary names in the Indian VC ecosystem. It would be fair to say that, Ash was one of the pioneers of the Indian venture capital ecosystem, having been doing deals in this market since 2003, and having a huge role to play in the growth of several hugely successful tech startups in India. So he's done a lot to improve the startup ecosystem in his own way, and so therefore it gives me a lot of pride to welcome Ash to this episode. Apart from all that, he's also been a very close friend and a valued client of Lexygen's for more than a dozen years now. So Ash, welcome to our show. Thank you for making time to be here. And with your permission, I'll give you a quick introduction to our audience, to you, and then we can run into the questions. So, Ash, has always had a very stellar career in finance. So as I mentioned, he started his venture capital career in India in 2003, when he was part of Silicon Valley Bank. So prior to becoming a VC, he was at Silicon Valley Bank, a star banker who had a hugely successful, career back in the Valley, and he was trusted by SVB, which, as you all may know, was one of the most, storied banks, technology-focused banks in the Silicon Valley. So at SVB, he was tasked with growing their international business, and that's what originally, brought him to India. Though of course he's Indian, but he's had a very international career to him. But so after all that, sometime in 2003, he donned a new role in SVB of, spearheading their venture capital initiatives. I'll let him talk about all those things in more detail, but that's like the high level. And he is, since then invested in and backed some legendary Indian startups, be it Paytm, which you all know, Snapdeal, Sula Wines, Viva Foods, Mezzi, Supertails. The list just goes on. He's continued to invest in several successful companies and several on the way. So once again, Ash, welcome to the show, and let's get started. Let's get rolling into the questions.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me on the show. Obviously, it's great that you're doing this because I think there's always learnings we all have had and experiences we all have had that we can share with others. And of course, as you mentioned earlier, Saama and myself value Lexygen significantly because you are part of our ecosystem, you're part of our internal systems.
Indeed.
And we feel very, very comfortable when you're representing us or our portfolio companies.
Thank you.
So thank you for that, and of course your friendship.
Indeed, absolutely. Couldn't have put it better, every word of what you said there. And so that's why when friends get together and talk, the conversations can be much more interesting and insightful. So let me roll with the first question, which is a little bit of a personal question, if you will. Obviously, we know each other well, but for the benefit of our audience, could you tell us a little bit about your early days, your childhood, etc.? Where did you grow up? What sort of upbringing did you have? And how did you enter the big world of finance? And what took you there? Was it like parental pressure, or did you have some personal, attraction to it? Talk us through all your personal early journeys.
Well, I think you alluded to this earlier, but I think I've really been a global citizen, right? I was actually born, a lot of people don't know this, spent my entire childhood in Kenya, in East Africa. I was there through high school, and great childhood. It was a great place to grow up in those days, and still consider that, home in a lot of different ways.
Of course.
After high school, I came to Bangalore for my next level of college education, and actually came to Bangalore and went to college here, did my BCom, and right after my BCom, I moved to Philadelphia to do my MBA.
Okay.
Because I was one of those guys, I knew that if I didn't go for my master's right away, I'd never go back to school. So I wanted to get it out of the
Makes
system.
sense, yeah.
So I went there, and I went to the US in '89, and I graduated with my MBA in '91, which was not a great period
Of course.
for the US economy, and jobs were hard to get. The only job I could get was a banking job. So everything that's happened in my life has been it just happened. I've never planned my life or my career. So I went to work in banking, and after doing 18 months of analyst work, I realized that I need to do something different.
Okay.
And I started researching what I want to do next. And as part of your rotation in the US banks, you finish your analyst rotation, then you get placed in a lending group, which I did. I started investigating that. We were in Philadelphia. We're in the heart of the pharma biotech belt, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And I was like, we have all these startups. Well, why aren't we working with them? And that's when it dawned on me that banks
And which bank
typically...
was it that you started with?
It's called Meridian Bank.
Sure. Okay.
That banks are very conservative, right? They don't understand this. But I started doing some research, and I came up with this small bank based in Silicon Valley called Silicon Valley Bank that had only one office at that time in Boston and in Silicon Valley. And I said, these guys are doing startups. Why can't we do it? Yeah. So I researched them. I wrote a paper on them. Inter-office mail to our CEO. Okay. He actually opens it, reads it to his credit, calls my manager up and says, who the hell is this kid?
How old were you then?
24, 25.
Unbelievable.
So he got very intrigued. And I said, listen, we have all the startups here. And by the way, I've looked at Silicon Valley Bank's model. This is the safest lending because these companies raise a lot of venture capital.
Right.
They deposit it with us, and we lend them a small fraction of it, right? So he said, this is intriguing. I'll let you do this, but with adult supervision. My manager was asked to supervise this, and he said, go out, hunt for it.
Yeah.
And the beautiful part of that was Silicon Valley Bank's model. You take a lot of deposits, and then you lend. It was, in some ways, we thought it was the safest kind of lending because you always had X number of deposits with you. So anyway, long story short, we started doing this. In 2 years, we were able to go to like tech awards, and 20 out of 24 companies were our portfolio companies.
Wow.
Became famous. But Meridian got acquired by a large bank called Core States Bank.
Of course. Yeah.
Which eventually got acquired by First Union. So it went on and on. But when I went to, when we got acquired by Core States, they were very excited. Oh my God, look at this, all these exciting companies.
Yeah.
But then they peel the onion and they see, oh my God, these companies all don't make money.
Yeah.
What do we do with this? So I very quickly realized that big banks were going to struggle with this. So I actually called a gentleman by the name of Ken Wilcox, who was the CEO of Silicon Valley Bank at that time, and said, listen, I'm getting recruited by other banks like PNC and others to go work for them and start a tech group.
Sure.
But I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen to me in a big bank. So he said, listen, Ash, I've known you. I've followed your career for years. You belong here.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, we're a bank of misfits. People who don't fit in traditional commercial banks fit here. You're one of those. Come work for us. And no kidding, I think 72 hours later, I was an employee
That's
of Silicon
nice.
Valley Bank. Started the first office in Philadelphia. We didn't have an office. It was in the basement of my house. Okay. And I went to IKEA, bought furniture, set up my basement office. And that's how it started.
Wow.
And eventually went on to, run a large part of our practice on the East Coast. And then when the crash happened in 2002, the dot-com crash,
Yeah.
we were also going through management transition. There's a gentleman by the name of Greg Becker who's coming on as the number 2 guy at the bank, being anointed the future successor. And he was asked to build his own team. I remember he called me on New Year's Eve and said, why did he come out to the Valley? And that was it. The rest was history.
Okay. That's quite amazing. So that sounds like a very, very, almost like a dream story, right? A 28, 29-year-old, first of all, writing a mail to the CEO of a bank, no less, because banks are known to be fairly bureaucratic organizations, and getting the attention. So it's absolutely credit to them as well that they took you seriously and trusted you with it. And even more amazing that the CEOs, SVB, had heard of you by then and offered you this opportunity. So, and then with all this going on, as I understand, what many people don't understand is that subsequently once you moved to the Bay Area, you also were tasked with the internationalization of Silicon Valley Bank, etc. And that's kind of what got you focused on Asia, including India and China, which were, of course, eventually the great markets. But when you had all this going for you, it would have been obviously nice to have been a very up and rising, jet-setting executive of a top bank like SVB, and being trusted with putting up a whole new globalization move. When you had all this going for you, why did you shift to venture capital, which was not something you had done before? And I just wanted to understand the why and equally the how. I mean, how did you make that shift and convince internally that venture capital should be led by you?
As I told you earlier, I never planned my career, right? Things just happened to me and I just followed my own gut. So if you go back to it, right? So when I went to Silicon Valley in 2002, things were at its worst ever in the Valley, right? Companies like Webvan and had
Which
all
had
gone out of
collapsed,
business, everything had gone. And I was responsible for 80% of the portfolio in Silicon Valley. Now, when things are great, everybody's happy. No one pays attention. But when things are tough, suddenly everybody wants to work with you, right? We were the bank first in line, but we had a very strong philosophy of working with our venture capital friends to save as many companies as we could. Okay. And that's where I built my deepest relationships in the Valley. So in some ways, I was fortunate I went at a bad time. And then when I started looking at it, we started looking and saying, why is the Valley in such bad shape? What could be done different? And the biggest issue was cost of product development in Silicon Valley at that time was incredibly high. So I had a thesis that eventually product development would shift to India and China for cost reasons, right? And eventually these were going to be huge markets because of the populations of the countries. And if there's money to be made, venture capital will follow. Sure. That was the basic thesis, right?
And this was right after the dot-com bubble burst?
So 2003, I would say, sat down with at that time who was a COO and then became CEO, a guy called Greg Becker.
Sure.
Greg and I sat down and we were just literally whiteboarding, which today in the days of work from home, this would not have happened. So I look back and say, that was one advantage of not working from home.
Yeah.
We're just whiteboarding in my office one after, like, what could we do? What could we do? And I said, Greg, wouldn't it be great? We always follow the VCs into deals. Wouldn't it be great if the VCs followed us somewhere doing something? They don't understand India and China.
Yep.
Why don't we figure it out? So I started making trips to India and China and Israel and the UK. Those are the 4 markets we picked.
Okay.
And my entire career has been the cusp of technology and venture capital, if you think about it, right?
Sure.
So I knew both well. Like I knew enough of venture capital to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. And I understood enough of tech startups to be dangerous.
I love how you put it.
Yeah.
Enough to be dangerous.
Sometimes, but the biggest issue is, a lot of people also talk about, can debt guys do equity investing and equity investors do debt? Because they're very different mindsets, right? Indeed. Lenders have a different mindset from an equity investor. Risk profile is different, risk reward is different. So anyway, so Greg and I studying, and so I did this for another year, came to India at that time, built relationships. I'm not kidding you, Vijay. At that time, if I had to gather all tech-focused VCs and entrepreneurs, I'd have 30 people in a room.
Okay.
Today, you know how many people you could fill, right?
That's crazy.
So build those relationships, and then I said, you know what?
This is in India, you mean?
Yeah, in India, I did the same thing in China, Israel, and the UK.
Similar, same story.
Same
Even
story.
in Israel.
Even in Israel.
Okay.
But the benefit we had was Silicon Valley Bank was a name to be reckoned with, right? There was credibility. I had credibility in the Valley. Yeah. So we decided, let's show the VCs what we have learned. So in 2003, we went up and down Silicon Valley, Sand Hill Road, and said, listen, we want to take you to India for a week. We want to show you the good, the bad, the ugly. Because you need to see it, because your portfolio companies need to lower their costs. They need to outsource product development.
Correct.
And I didn't mention investing, because if I said investing, they'd all get scared. Yeah. Nobody wanted to invest in India, right? Correct. But I said, if you come with me, you have to send a decision maker in the firm. Either the founder of the fund or a senior managing director, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We had 23 venture firms
Wow.
join us, from everybody from Sequoia to NEA to Bessemer to Battery to Canaan to Lightspeed. Everybody joined us.
Sure.
We came out here for a week. And again, I remember this is 2003. So very different mindset. So for example, we got an entire afternoon with Mukesh Ambani and his team. They
Sure.
just built Reliance Telecom in New Bombay. We got an entire half day with Narayan Murthy and his team at Infosys.
Wow.
So we brought together and we showed them, as I said, the good, the bad, the ugly.
And the names that you mentioned are all, I mean, ironically, about 5 of those names are Lexygen clients.
Okay, it's
and,
good.
And you know, they've all, done their storied bits in the ecosystem, in the Valley for sure, and some of them here as well. So I'm not surprised that you got that kind of time. But
Yeah.
the key thing is that you were able to bring them all.
So we came here. It was a great trip. At the end of the trip, 19 out of the 23 firms that we brought came to us and said, listen, we get your point. We need to look at India, okay? But we don't know how to.
Sure.
We have people of Indian origin in our firm, but they have never worked in India. They did IIT, they went to the US, whatever, but
Yeah.
they've never worked in India. They don't understand India. India is a complex country, right? So again, being opportunistic. This is not something a bank normally does, but we were just very opportunistic. Said, guess what? We'll help you. We started a consulting company, hired my first 2-3 people,
Okay.
and said, we'll be your eyes and ears. We'll be an extension of you on the ground, and do everything you want to do. And what was that at that point? Helping their portfolio companies, coming to India, finding partners, finding employees, finding, outsourced developers.
Sure.
So we became their extension of them. But then typical venture capital, right? They start sending us companies.
Yes.
One company comes, 2 company comes. Then the partner says, I might as well go check in on India and how these companies are doing.
Yes.
They come here, and obviously the next question is, do you have any companies we can look at for investing? Now we're talking about 2005.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Now by this time we had opened India, we had opened the UK office, and we were about to open Shanghai. Israel was never going to be a bank; it was just going to be a standalone office. That was also open. So 2005, I went back to Ken and Greg at the bank and said, listen, guys, we have a great opportunity.
Sure.
The Indian ecosystem, we know. We have brought everybody here.
Right.
Eventually, this is going to outgrow us.
Yeah.
Okay? The deal we made with the VCs when they became the consultants for them was a 3-year deal. Within 3 years, I knew either they would stay and like it,
Okay.
or they'd leave. Right? Which is exactly what happened. Those who left. Those who stayed and out.
Absolutely.
Large
Are
funds.
still around. Are still around.
So that was the start of it. And I went to Greg and Ken and said, I think we need to start a venture fund in India. But not a typical co-investment fund like we have in the US. A fund in India that is managed by me and my team.
Yeah.
You guys contribute capital, lend us your name to start with. We'll become independent going forward.
Sure.
We'll invest in seed and early stage. We'll only raise never more than 100 million,
Indeed.
right?
Yeah.
And we'll cherry pick the deals we want to, because we already know the partners, and we'll work with all our friends who we have brought here.
Sure.
That was the genesis. So the bank helped us
So
out.
the bank became your anchor investor, so to speak.
First anchor investor.
Understood.
And then we went out and they put 15% of the capital. We went out and raised 85% of the capital. And again, most of those LPs are still with us today.
Okay.
And that was the start. In 2006, we launched the fund. And fortunately, within a couple of years, we had found these great companies, including this young visionary entrepreneur called Vijay Sambamurthi. And
indeed.
we were off to the races.
How you treat your founders when they come and tell you something fundamental like we're going to change our business.
I back people, first and foremost. Is this founder passionate? Do they have vision? Do they understand the domain? If things don't work out, is this founder going to be open to pivoting? Or are they going to be stubborn about their idea?
How do you think you as a VC investor step in and ensure that the companies stay focused on what they're supposed to be doing?
One of the biggest misconceptions founders have is that raising money is a sign of success. My first focus is building trust with the founder.